Did you know that you could be making $100,000 an acre raising pastured pork? I know that because I've watched experts on YouTube, and I could tell they were experts because of their brightly colored, attractive, clickable thumbnails that told me all I needed to do was just get some pigs on pasture and it would be like printing money. I want to balance out some of those pie in the sky narratives that have been promoted pretty actively on YouTube, try to dispel some of that misinformation, but I also want to give you some encouragement because I know a lot of folks are homesteaders that have some livestock, and there's got to be a way to make money farming in 2026. Everybody needs to eat. Why don't we find a way to turn what we have or what we want into something that everybody needs? I'm Stephen Reichert, and this is Rowan Ridge Farm. I have spent the last 4.5 years putting a lot of these economic theories to the test. And in this video today, I want to tell you a handful of strategies that I have used personally. I'm not going to give you any speculative information or maybe or experts say, and I want to give you the full picture because a lot of these pie in the sky narratives about how much money you can make on just a small piece of land and how easy it looks, a lot of that comes with caveats that you're not always being told. And my mission in this channel is to help make America farmers again. I am new to this game. I'm a first generation farmer. I am a refugee from upstate New York who settled in the Granite State here because I wanted to produce food for my family and work a job where I would have access to an area of the country where lifestyle was rural and farming was relatively normal. My operation is entirely revolving around pigs, piglets, pork, but a lot of what I'm going to share with you in this video today is relevant even if you are dealing with other types of livestock. If you haven't subscribed here already, I would love it if you do that because we have more videos coming up where we're going to be talking about things to look for specifically when you're buying piglets so that that process will be easier, and to demystify a little bit of the questions about which breeds are best and how to select a good breeder, and things that will ultimately give you a better eye and ultimately better experience. And if you stick around to the end of this video, I'm going to share with you one thing that all the YouTube experts are definitely not telling you that can dramatically help improve your ability to make money as a small farm in 2026. A lot of this is general principles, but I have tested them and they have worked out and helped me to build a profitable farming business. And they're guiding where we're going in the future with this farm. And I want you to come along on that journey with us. To start with, let me just tell you a little bit about where I'm coming from, because when YouTubers make these claims about you can make X amount of dollars on X amount of land, and they sell you this pie in the sky vision of what is possible, there's usually information or context that is not included in their video. In order to make money in a significant quantity, you have to invest. And when you're investing, you are also inviting a certain amount of risk into the picture. And the risk that you're taking with your animals must not be any greater than the backup or safety net that you have available to protect you in case your investment goes poorly. Because when we're farming, we're not just dealing with widgets in a warehouse, and it's not just your business. You have a family that's also along for the ride. And I will tell you right out of the gate, there is no livestock without dead stock. And part of learning is going to involve some hard lessons. Sometimes you recover nicely and it's a near miss. Other times you have to get rid of animals or bury animals that you can't eat, that die from sickness, or that just unexpectedly die and you're off the farm working your other job in order to pay for the land and the mortgage and other things that you have to make payments on. And you come back and there's a dead animal. And that's part and parcel of farming. You got to be prepared for that and understand that if you aim small, you miss small. And a lot of creators who are talking about what they have done, they have more robust safety mechanisms. Like, for example, and I'm not going to name specific YouTubers because that's not really my purpose to call out specific people, but somebody who has, for example, retired from the military and has a military pension, or is retired with disability and they have retirement coming in, that provides them with a baseline level of income that enables them to take risks that are larger and would yield a larger return, and they can absorb that risk. Whereas you with your family, you might not be able to absorb that as well. And so minimizing risk is the first thing that I would say needs to be kept in mind. The goal with farming and making money in farming is not necessarily, at least out of the gate where we're talking about, when you're just starting to approach this business aspect of farming, it's not to make a bunch of money as much as it is to make more money than you are spending and to be profitable and efficient. It's a long game. It's not something that happens quickly. My first recommendation is minimize risk. And then second, develop a specific product and be focused. Don't be afraid to say, you know what, we're getting rid of the chickens and we're going to buy our eggs from a neighbor or another farm, God forbid, even the grocery store. We're going to do that in order to really drill down on the one thing that we want to monetize and that we want to build a reputation around. When I came to this farm in 2021, I came here as a post-pandemic refugee from upstate New York, and New Hampshire is a good place to settle. And I wanted to raise my own protein because I'm a type 1 diabetic, and I had a job up here working as a registered nurse, and I figured that would leave me enough time because the schedule is relatively user-friendly and I can raise some of my own stuff. And initially my plan was to get pigs to clear the land so that I could, without a tractor, eventually get my pasture up to speed so that I could raise beef. And we got to the point of having cows, goats, ducks, chickens, and of course pigs. What I learned from all of that was that these other animals created a lot of distraction that made it difficult for me to really expand what I was doing and develop a quality product with my pigs. In order to be profitable in 2026 with your farming, it's really important to take a hard look at everything that you have. And if you want to run a business, you need to run a business where you can say in one sentence, this is what we do, period, where it is simple and it is focused. That enables you to actually specialize in something that is going to set you apart so that people are looking for you and people want to buy your stuff rather than you having to always be on the lookout for people so that you can try to unload things onto other people. The difference between those two scenarios is massive. I figured this out when, after my first year with pigs, we had piglets. And piglets in New England are kind of hard to come by in the spring because in order to have spring piglets, that means that you have to keep a breeding herd through the winter. And New Hampshire is not super environmentally enjoyable to raise animals. It's like below zero for a decent part of the winter. There's cold and snow and it's blowing all over the place, and then there's ice, and then you have to figure water in the winter time. You have to be carrying buckets of feed out to your animals. There's shoveling things, plowing things, and then you still have to get up and go to work the day job while you're trying to build this business, because it's not going to be profitable right out of the gate, and you need to allow for at least 5 years before you're looking for that profitability to scale up. If you can develop profitability on a small scale, then in time, as you develop that market, you can grow slowly and incrementally, where the additional risk that you're putting out to expand your operation to make it more profitable is just enough risk that you can cover it without worrying about, if Murphy's Law, whatever can go wrong will go wrong. If something happens unexpectedly, that it's not going to completely tank the whole operation, because when we're farming, we're dealing with living creatures. There is no livestock without dead stock. Sometimes it's a sow with babies on board, and the sow dies and the babies die too. And now what was going to be, $1,500 worth of income has turned into a complete loss, and massively demoralizing loss on top of that. And you need to be prepared for those things to go wrong so that you can absorb the losses and that you can learn from them by moving on past them, not getting completely cut off at the knees and then you're done. You can afford to lose some battles, but it's important to win the war and be winning more than you're losing. Aim small, miss small. Don't be rushing and looking for a quick return. Invest incrementally and work out the kinks at every stage of expansion, because it's a little bit at a time, and every time you add more animals, you're going to find new problems. And farming is about solving problems. And if you've been homesteading for a bit, or thinking about homesteading, or watching homesteading content on YouTube, you know that a lot of the stuff that you see is, hey, we have this problem, here's how we're going to solve it. And that's what we're doing out here. And the problems always are new. There's always new things to worry about and figure out and fix. When your family is in the mix, you also have to be conscious of the fact that their morale is going to impact things, and you can't just start over and say, okay, well, everything, we're going to wipe the board clean and start over again, because there's only so many times that you're going to be able to do that while still having your wife and kids support you, so that as you're fighting an uphill battle to begin with, that it's not an impossible uphill battle that is getting steeper and steeper as you go along. Networking and building community is a big part of being successful as you're farming. Rather than selling a product to the general public, I would recommend try to find something that you can sell to other farmers, because you're dealing with people who are going to be buying in bigger quantities, and you're going to be able to avoid dealing with people who require a lot of time and education. So for example, rather than selling pork chops to people, my business centers around selling pigs, breeding stock, and feeder piglets to homesteaders and to farmers who are selling pork. That is their wheelhouse that they're doing. I do sell some pork, but my specialty is in breeding. The reason why I got into the breeding is because of the fact that there are not many people in New England that do it to begin with. And of the folks in New England that do it, there are a lot of people who don't do it particularly well, because it's really hard to do. A lot of times, if you look for the avenue that has a lot of challenge or difficulty in it, where there are fewer competitors who you got kind of jostle around with to get market share, you're going to find that you have a better opportunity to establish a niche and to make that money and to build that reputation around a specific product. You have to develop that market. I would say the first 5 years of what you're doing is going to be devoted to developing the market and not looking for a profit. It's important to understand the regulations in everything that you're doing, and understand that the USDA and a lot of the regulatory bodies are not set up to help you succeed. If anything, they are there to gatekeep for the larger industry as a whole. They're going to be creating obstacles and roadblocks that you're going to have to figure out how to get around. And if you're looking for mentorship and you're looking for help, you're always going to be better off talking to farmers who are at least 150 miles away, because small farms always are very competitive. If you go to the person down the road who's doing kind of what you're doing or what you want to be doing, and you say, hey, I'm new to the game, can you tell me how to be profitable and successful? They're either going to tell you very little or not anything that's going to be helpful, because they want to protect their share of the market. My farm had a butcher shop on it that was able to do commercial custom butchery. And I ran it as a commercial butcher shop for a year, which was great experience, but it ultimately turned out to be a distraction that was taking away from what I was doing with the animals. So I made the decision to downsize that so that I could focus and specialize. You're not going to get that kind of advice and those recommendations from people who are close to you a lot of times, because they're more concerned with making sure that you're not cutting into what they're doing. I'm not trying to suggest that there is no community available to be built and that you should give up on that and have a negative view of people in your area who are farming and participating in the local food economy. But a lot of times you're going to have better success to partner with or look for help from people who would be interested in buying your product, rather than the people who are also selling your product. So for example, I have friends who run Airbnbs, small cafes, general stores, And those are people who I've gotten a lot of good and useful feedback and information from. And those are people who are excited about my products as I have put more time and effort into specializing and improving the quality, that I can go to them. They're going to help me make decisions and improvements on my product that are going to be very straightforward, and that I can depend on them to give me reliable information without having to worry about whether or not their intentions are pure or not, because they don't stand to compete with me and I'm not competing with them. It's all just like, hey, I can give you some of this, and is this something that you would be interested in? And all of those other vendors and people who are operating like that in the local food economy, they're always looking for a better product and something to sell. And if you build a better mousetrap, you can be sure that they're going to come to you and they're going to want to buy from you. And if you're not, they'll also be able to let you know, and that gives you good information so that you can develop your market accordingly. Make sure that your focus is on going deeper with the existing clientele that you have, because somebody that you've already sold to in the past is going to be much easier to sell to again. If they had a good experience once, they're going to want to come back and they're going to want to build on that. And so understand that you're going to be much better served in 5 years of consistent business practices if you can go out of your way to absolutely satisfy and take care of a smaller number of customers than you will by trying to sell a larger volume in the short term, where it's good enough for government work, where you just want to cash in and get by. Let me give you an example of this. Here in New England, because of the fact that this is not a very hospitable environment for breeding piglets, in the springtime, when the piglet market is really hot and everybody wants to buy piglets for their homestead so that they can sell pork in the fall, grow them out spring, summer, fall, butcher them in the fall, and then that's when all the homesteaders and the pork producers are selling pork. So in the spring, everybody's looking. There are people who will do something that I have thought about doing and I have never done up till this point, but they will buy piglets from out of state, like Pennsylvania, Ohio, even as far away as Indiana and Iowa, and they will buy these piglets off of commercial breeding lots, and they buy them for 50 to 75 bucks a pop. Now, you may not believe it, but piglets in New England go for about 150 bucks a pop. They are not cheap. And if you can bring in a bunch of piglets that you buy for $50 a pop, and then you can turn around and sell them for an extra $100 on top, yeah, you got to pay for the trucking and the fees to get them from point A to point B. You can make a decent amount of money. I figured it's not really consistent with my brand, even though I might be able to make a little extra money. In the long term, it would water down the product that I'm selling, because I am breeding and selling animals that are born on pasture in cold, inhospitable weather. And these piglets, these animals, they are hardened off. Their immune system, what they are used to, they're born and bred in this stuff, and they're good for it. They're not coming out of a temperature controlled hog barn in Iowa and then being turned loose out in your backyard. And hopefully there's enough crossover and overlap between the ecosystem where they came from and now where they're going to have to be surviving for the next 6, 7, 8 months until they go to the butcher here. And what always happens is you get unscrupulous breeders in this part of the country. They'll ship in piglets that come from places where they're not hardened off, they're not from a local area, plus the stress of being shipped and having to make that trip across the country, exposure to the cold as they're driving in the trailers, and then they get here and then they're good enough to go, turn around and sell them, and then you get your piglets home that you just paid 150 bucks for, and they look good when you bought them, and then you get them home and they come down with pneumonia and your piglets die, and it's like, well, buyer beware, right? And that type of short-term thinking is not going to get you where you want to go. And I have chosen not to make short-term plays like that, but rather to say, okay, here are my clients who are buying piglets from me. Let me follow up with them. How are their piglets? Are they surviving well? Are they staying healthy? What do their carcasses look like when they're getting butchered? Are you happy with what you're getting? What would you like more of? What kind of breeds would you like to do? And talk to the people who are buying piglets from me and say, hey, what do your customers want? How can I help you make money with your customers? And when you are serving those customers, then everything becomes much easier to get their buy-in, where they really want to work with you because they trust you and you build a relationship and you do that. And it's slow going at first, but if you consistently do that, you develop a reputation where this is my 5th year going in and I don't advertise. I don't tell anybody about what I'm doing. People come to me. People are looking for me. They're looking for my product because they know this is how I raise my animals and this is how I conduct business. When you have that reputation and you have that market, that's when you start to be able to then start to expand. So this is my 5th year and I am now in the process of expanding. I have expanded a couple times. I started off with 4 piglets, and then within a year, I was up to 8. And then I've had, kind of that jump up to 12 to 15. And every time you expand, there are new problems. There are new diseases because the health impacts when you have a couple of pigs and they have a ton of room, there's very little impact on the land. And then everybody's individual space shrinks a little bit because now there's more pigs, there's more stress, there's more fighting, more pecking order, more bickering around the feed trough. You have to figure out how to solve the problems that will inevitably come with that. You have to rotate them around because doing 4 or 6 piglets for a couple of years, you maybe never saw any kind of sickness in the pigs. You double that number of pigs, now there's more impact and ecological factors that are in play, and now you're going to see health issues that you had not seen before, even though you're doing everything else exactly the same way as you had been. You have to take that stuff into account because it's going to happen. But when you have the market and you have that established and you have clientele who are happy with you and you can talk to and say honestly, okay, here's what's going on, here's what happened. I lost a sow, she got sick, she died, piglets on board, everybody was lost. You can work with people and then you have a much better opportunity to say, hey, can we do another litter a little bit later? I'm sorry, the timing was off. But people will work with you because they know the quality of the product that you are actually working with and what you're trying to achieve. Once you iron out those problems, then you can expand. In order to be profitable in 2026, put your focus on infrastructure first. You can't make the price of piglets go up. You can't make the price of pork go up. You can add value and charge a little bit more, and I would 100% recommend that you are not afraid to charge what it actually costs for you to be profitable, because if people like the product that you're selling, they want you to be profitable because they want to be able to come back and buy from you again. So trying to be the cheapest product out there is actually not a winning strategy. Identifying how much you actually need to charge to make that product over and over again to the standard that people have is where you're going to make money. And people would much rather pay a higher price for a better quality product than for you to be trying to race to the bottom to make your product cheaper and cheaper. The right market and the right customers, they will say, yes, I'm buying from you principally because of the fact that you're not the cheapest person out there. I had the first pig that I sold for 2026, a butcher hog. I told the lady, I said, listen, I just want you to know this is kind of the cost that we're looking for the total pig once we get butchering done and processing and all of that stuff. And I said, just full disclosure, because I don't want anyone to be surprised, because it's not cheap. And I said, the reason it's not cheap is because of the way I'm raising the pigs, the things that I'm putting in, the time I'm taking, and also the breeding, the genetics, and the environment that the pigs are living in, and the quality of the feed that they have. And that's why it costs a little bit more to do this. And she said, that's the reason I came to you. That's the reason why I'm buying my pig from you, is because I want the best quality product and I want the value of added convenience. I made the calculation to give one flat price so that the customer pays me once. You're not having to pay once for this and once for that and itemize everything so that you can, it's kind of like the idea between driving an automatic, which is easier and you're not having to mess with anything, versus driving a standard so that you can save a little bit on gas. At the end of the day, with the clientele that I have been serving, at least, and I think that this holds true in a lot of different areas of the country, if you can identify the people who appreciate the value and the time savings that you can offer them, they will be happy to pay more money if you can offer them a higher quality product, simpler, and with less nonsense associated, where you just say, listen, this is how much it costs for it to show up at your door, ready to go in the frying pan or the freezer as you decide. But don't be afraid to charge more for a high quality product, because if it's dollar store pork and people want Dollar General pork, they can go buy Smithfield products. You're selling a product that costs what it costs to produce. And in order for you to keep producing it, you got to be able to know your numbers and charge what is going to be reasonably profitable for you to continue doing so. Now, I promised at the beginning of the video that I would tell you a trick to increase your profitability and to help your farm make money in 2026, and most importantly, beyond 2026. And that is to pay attention to the things that other farmers are not paying attention to, because it's not technically farming. And that is the business and the online presence of your business. My company exists on Instagram, barely. I never go on there because it's a waste of time, and I'm very careful with where I put my emphasis in terms of my content creation, which is marketing for the farm, but it's also in some ways it's a business endeavor in and of itself. It's a diversification of what I am doing in order to help me do more with the farm. I have a Facebook page, which I post maybe once a month on there, and I don't check it very regularly. The hub of the wheel of what I am doing is my website. Now, if you're thinking about this and you say, as I've heard many people do when they come and they are buying piglets from me and they're talking about, getting their first sales together, I say, do you have a website? Do you have a card? No, I don't have that yet. I'm going to wait till we get a little bit more established, we get things going, and then I'm going to reinvest some money in a website, and I'm going to go along, and then I'm going to do that once we have our feet underneath us. And I want to tell you that that is the wrong approach. You want to start building a website, start building search engine optimization with, I am using Squarespace. I have no fiduciary interests in Squarespace. They're not paying me to say any of this. I've just used them and I found them very easy to work with. And SEO, or search engine optimization, is that when somebody types in a search for piglets near me, or pork in New Hampshire, piglets from pasture in New Hampshire, that my website is going to come up as number one. And you may not have a whole bunch of piglets to sell. You may not have a bunch of pork to sell. But when you establish your website, as you're busy trying to find those first few customers and really blow their mind with the quality of what you're offering and what you're doing, you are giving the website a chance to get crawled and indexed by Google. And if you're using a website service like Squarespace that does a lot of this stuff for you, the SEO is built into the package, so they are helping your page become more searchable. I would highly recommend take some time and really focus on developing search engine optimization for yourself, so that when you're posting pictures on your website, every little bit of media that you're creating, little videos, little pictures, and you're updating the website, put in the tags, put in the alt text, right? All of that little stuff, and search this stuff up and do it yourself. Don't hire somebody from India who's going to send you an email. Get a reputable website that is easy to work with and that includes SEO, because what's going to happen is when you're small and you're building and you don't really need the website yet, it's going to be growing. And then when you get to the point where you have more to offer, that website is going to be ranking higher in Google searches, and it's going to bring customers to you at the time that you're starting to ramp up. This is what has happened for me. I started my website right when I started the farm, and we didn't really need it for anything and didn't have a lot of traffic coming in there. But starting the website, letting the search engine optimization get your site ranked in Google for specific things in a specific area. And that takes a little bit of research and a little bit of time, which is not the scope of this video. As you build the product and you build the market, you're going to then have people coming to you once you have all that other stuff developed, and then you get momentum behind you and you're able to move more of your products faster and better. And you are not going out and looking for people to buy your stuff. People are coming to you, and you are in demand, and they know you, and they are coming and finding you instead of you having to look for people. I don't advertise on Facebook. 99 times out of 100, I don't post on Facebook groups. I don't post on Craigslist anymore. I don't advertise anywhere. So Thanksgiving of 2025, I had 90% of my piglet reservations completely sold out. The website brings people in, and with a website, an email list, build an email list. I love YouTube. YouTube is the only platform on which I create content because it allows me to actually have conversations and potentially monetize what I'm doing. And we have channel memberships here if you want extras and bonuses and super chats and things like that, which I always appreciate because that kind of fiduciary support on the channel helps me make more videos like this where I can really deep dive into these topics. But the email list, which if you click down in the description, go to nhpork.com and sign up on my email list. And what happens is if someday YouTube decides that everybody needs to be vegan because pig farts are bad for the environment, I own my email list and I can send you guys an email and say, hey guys, this is my latest video. It's getting, shadow banned on YouTube. Or, hey guys, I'm doing a class, or I have this program, I wrote this book, etc. Whatever that you want to do, but you own that list. Anything that you develop on social media, no matter how clever or catchy it is, all it takes is getting reported by a couple of vegans, and now your website's gone. Now your list is gone. Now your ability to communicate with the public takes a giant hit, and it's important for you to have inbound traffic coming to you, establish that website before you think you need it, and do it through a reputable company that will help with optimization, and then do a little research to make sure that you're giving all the information so that Google is able to crawl your site and index everything, and that you're updating your site consistently enough and that it looks good. And then with your website, build an email list. You don't have to email your email list. I email my list maybe, depending on what's going on, once every couple of months, because everybody's got a million things that are coming into their inbox constantly, and I'm not trying to be annoying. But I want to make sure that if there's something that I need to get out, the people who are most invested in what I'm doing and most want to buy from me and that have bought from me in the past, I always send them to my email list because that's mine and I get to take that with me, regardless what Mark Zuckerberg or the people at Google think about my political opinions. It's mine and I get to take that with me. So guys, I hope you got something useful out of this video. If you haven't done so already, please like, subscribe, and tell me where you are in this process of monetization of your farm and what you are trying to do. If there are things that you still have questions about, by all means, please drop a comment. And if you're subscribed to this channel, we do YouTube live streams every single weekend, at least one, Friday nights, where you guys can come on. We can actually have a conversation. Usually I try to do them from about 9:30 or so to maybe midnight. And I take questions and kind of get into the weeds with you guys so that we can help make America farmers again and get local food production up and running, because I want you to succeed. I want to succeed. And we're going to do it a little bit at a time, and we're going to do it together. And this is how.